The National Student Financial Aid Scheme, NSFAS, was meant to help disadvantaged students access higher education, but government mismanagement and inefficiencies have turned it into a failing system. Frequent leadership changes, outdated IT systems, and delays in payments have left many students struggling. The slow and bureaucratic accreditation process for private housing, coupled with an unrealistic accommodation cap of 45,000 Rand per year, has worsened the student housing crisis, especially in cities like Cape Town, where rent is far higher. Many landlords now refuse NSFAS-funded students due to late or unreliable payments, leaving thousands without accommodation. Instead of addressing these ongoing failures, the government has allowed Nsfas to become a source of stress and instability for students. With inadequate university housing and delayed or insufficient financial support, students are forced into homelessness or unsafe living conditions. Until the government takes accountability and fixes Nsfas's broken administration, higher education will remain inaccessible for many who rely on it the most.
Tertiary students say the disbandment of the Nsfas board came a little too late. They say their allowances were paid late, sometimes not paid at all, by the 4 fintech companies contracted to disburse almost 50 billion Rand on behalf of Nsfas. They highlighted some of their challenges after the 4 companies were contracted last year, June.
Rent, transport, food, we suffer with that. Our students are suffering. Right now, Abanye, they're dropping out.
We want the Nsfas to give the money to the institution straight. They will pay us because Tenet and Ezag, Naroko and Converse, they are failing us.
I believe that Tenet receive allowances from Nsfas, but it fails to deliver the money to the student.
We want these allowances to be direct in the form of SASSA payments. They should be structured like SASSA.
The students are now relentless in their quest to remove Higher Education and Training Minister Bleeding Zimande, whom they accuse of corruption, fraud and maladministration associated with Nsfas.
Students receive SMSs instructing them to download an app that we did not know about. The process of indirect payment, that is indirect by the way, there was never proper consultation. There was never engagement of stakeholder buy-in for students to understand the process.
Students from the University of Pretoria, University of Johannesburg, Tshwane University of Technology, University of Limpopo and some TVET colleges took part in today's march. Their memorandum was received and signed by Nsfas Chief Operations Officer Errol Makubela.
We've listened attentively to all the demands that they've been raising and we are going to be looking at them, we're going to be processing and we shall respond as requested.
The students have emphasized that if their demands are not met by Monday, then they will be heading to the union buildings. Offenses Timo, SABC News, Pretoria.
Damn it. What the damn it is that, my nigga? What the...
It has been suggested that Nsfas stop funding specific degrees that do not address the employee needs of South Africa. Minister Blade Nzimande has actually proposed that Nsfas funding prioritize specific degrees, programs and certificates based on the skills needed in South Africa. Certain people have actually suggested that if corruption was properly dealt with within Nsfas, that there would be adequate funds to fund all degrees. Because the necessity for prioritizing certain degrees comes from limited funding, which is due to corruption.
Yeah, this one is a real death.
So what proactive measures is Nsfas implementing to really ensure timely and transparent disbursement of these accommodation allowances to students who really are in need?
Good afternoon, and also to your viewers and your listeners. Look, the reality is that it would become apparent that Nsfas is struggling quite severely so to administer the new accommodation model, especially as it pertains to paying service providers in terms of student accommodation providers. Because since the beginning of the year, it has been this back and forth. We had accepted the explanation that had been given by the administrator a few weeks back pertaining to what was a plan effectively, or rather essentially to deal with these backlogs. But it would appear that they were not able to implement that plan and that process to the extent to which it would ensure that all students their accommodation has been paid. The undertaking that he had given to the nation at large a few weeks back was that they had a team in place and that all of those backlogs would be dealt with within that particular time. And now what we're seeing is obviously not that. So I suppose the sum and total is that Nsfas is seemingly struggling to administer this, and as a result, it has left thousands of students either some being evicted or some of them being threatened with eviction.
I'm saying, from what you have observed, what do you make of the situation, especially when it comes to the grievances being raised by landlords or service providers?
Look, as I said in the beginning, I think the situation is rather a devastating one because of obviously the material impact it has, particularly on the students and the landlords, number one. Number two, there is a clear evidence of incompetence and really just confusion, utter confusion at the level of Nsfas, based on some of the factors that I've given you, that all of these challenges are not happening at the fact that there is no money or Nsfas does not know who their beneficiaries are. So I suppose what we make of the situation is that it is a devastating one, and really there does not seem to be the required competence at the level of Nsfas to be able to deal with some of these issues.